burns represented a relatively small percentage of military injuries. However, there has been a dramatic increase in the number and severity of military burns in recent conflicts. This is explained by the changing nature of modern warfare. Fuel requirements for vehicles and aircraft are much greater than in the past. As a result, there are larger stockpiles of fuel which can be accidentally or deliberately ignited. Long-range missiles ensure that ships which previously acted primarily in a support role are now brought into the fighting. The quantity and power of explosives and incendiaries have increased, and the damage inflicted is much greater. Many anti-personnel weapons contain white phosphorus. Phosphorus grenades cause third-degree burns as well as serious traumatic injury. Burns also result from fires started by explosive devices. The most common military burns are thermal, electrical, chemical, and white phosphorus burns. Thermal burns include scalds caused by contact with steam or hot liquids, flame burns caused by contact with open flame, including flaming fuel from vehicle accidents, flash burns caused by the explosion of gases or fine granular material. Flash burns can cause clothing to ignite. Stoves and lanterns have been known to explode. Contact burns caused by contact with heated surfaces such as vehicle exhaust pipes, electric burners, heaters, or steam pipes. Burns are a leading cause of injury, long-term hospitalization, and death. Most burns can be prevented.
Get me a first aid kit. Get a first aid kit.
Oh my God.
Okay, relax now. We'll get an ambulance over here.
Electrical burns are caused by electrical current or by lightning. Burns from electrical current may be more serious than they appear because of the life-threatening injuries that may accompany them. Electrical current passing through a body may disrupt breathing and heart action. A person who receives a serious electric shock may be thrown violently to the ground. This can result in fractures, dislocations, and head or spinal injury.
Casualty, main switchboard!
Chemical burns are caused by caustic or corrosive substances found in battery acid or cleaning products. In wartime, chemical burns result from vesicants like mustard gas. Corrosive chemicals will continue to burn as long as they remain on the skin. Act quickly to protect the casualty from the chemical or to remove the chemical from the casualty. Brush off dry chemicals. Flood liquid chemicals with water for 10 to 15 minutes. White phosphorus burns are a common military injury. Many grenades, flares, and anti-personnel weapons contain white phosphorus. When such weapons explode, they release particles of white phosphorus which ignite on contact with air. The particles embedded in tissue or clothing will continue to burn in the presence of air. Burns also result from fires started by the explosive devices. It is an unfortunate fact that even in the field of operations, more burns are caused by carelessness than by hostile actions. The white phosphorus particles may have to be picked out with a knife, bayonet, or other pointed instrument. Immerse the particles in water to prevent their reignition.
Frank! First aid kit! The first aid kit, Frank!
Inhalation injury is responsible for just as many deaths as flash or flame burns, particularly if the casualty was trapped for some time in an enclosed area such as a building, vehicle, or bunker. Death may result from inhalation of hot air, toxic chemicals, smoke, or carbon monoxide. Suspect inhalation injury anytime a casualty is rescued from an enclosed area and whenever there are facial burns, singed nasal hair, a smell of smoke on the breath, or obvious respiratory difficulty. When assessing the severity of a burn, consider the extent and the depth of the burn. The depth of a burn is expressed as degree. Most burn injuries are a combination of first, second, and third-degree burns. There may or may not be pain. This will depend on the extent of nerve damage. The rule of nines can be used to help you make a quick estimate of the extent of the burn expressed as a percentage of total body area. Burns are frequently complicated by conditions like shock and the swelling that results from the destruction of body tissue. Be aware that infection is very likely when the skin is burned and underlying tissues are exposed. Burns of the face and neck are always considered to be serious, as are burns to the hands, feet, and groin. Facial burns may compromise breathing or may cause serious eye injury. The goal of first aid for burns is to prevent further injury, both to the casualty and to others at the scene, to manage the airway, and to care for the burn until the casualty can be turned over to medical aid. Regardless of the cause, nature, and extent of the burn, the following guidelines should be observed. Remove the casualty to safety away from fire, chemical, electrical, or smoke hazards. Put out the fire. If the casualty's clothes are on fire, roll him in a blanket or roll him on the ground. Remove burning or smoldering clothing as soon as possible. Remove anything that is constrictive, including jewelry and tight clothing. Cool the burn by plunging it into cold water or wrapping with cool, wet towels or cold packs. Use whatever means available. The important thing is to stop the burning. Dress the burns to prevent further contamination. Use a burn dressing, sterile gauze, or the cleanest material available. With burns of the hands and feet, separate fingers and toes with dry, sterile dressings before swelling occurs. Cover major burns with thick, bulky dressings. This will help conserve body heat and will slow the onset of shock. Immobilize fractures and administer first aid for other injuries. Maintain an open airway. Slow the onset of shock. Because of the loss of bodily fluids, shock is always present with severe burns. Keep the casualty warm and comfortable. Elevate feet and legs. Evacuate to medical aid. The Canadian Forces use several types of burn dressings. Products such as water gel have been adopted by the Canadian Forces, the U.S. Army, Navy, and others involved in firefighting and emergency rescue. The use of water gel has several significant effects. Burn progression is prevented because of the cooling. The loss of vital body fluids is reduced. Shock and chances of infection are reduced. It is easier to remove clothing stuck to a burn because the water gel dressing is water soluble. White phosphorus particles are extinguished. Another type of burn dressing that has been used successfully by the Canadian Forces for many years is the Roehampton burn dressing. This dressing has a sterile plastic lining so that the dressing will not stick to the wound. The other side of the dressing is a spongy foam padding which helps to protect the injury from trauma. The Roehampton burn dressing should be cut to fit. However, it must extend beyond the edges of the wound. With all burn injuries, cleanliness is essential. Do not contaminate the sterile surface of the burn dressing. Avoid coughing or breathing on the burn. Do not break blisters. Do not attempt to remove clothing that is stuck to a burn. Burn dressings are to be secured in place with broad bandages. The first priority of any burn accident is to make the area safe. Avoid becoming a second casualty. Turn off ignition or machinery that is still running. Remove casualties from danger. If the casualty's clothes are on fire, roll him in a blanket or roll him on the ground. Get a casualty out of a pool of spilled fuel. Flush the affected area with cool water. Get a casualty out of a smoke-filled area and into fresh air. If it is impossible to remove a casualty from the hazard, as in a case of toxic chemical agents, then protect him from further exposure. Don't take chances. Wear your protective clothing and gloves at all times. Check for electrical hazards. Shut off the current or use a dry stick or rope to move a casualty out of contact with electricity. Do whatever is the quickest. Put out the fire. Check hatch doors before opening. If they are hot, hose them down. Check stairwells and ladders before using them. Wear proper protective clothing and equipment, anti-flash gear and battle dress. Fill lanterns and stoves away from fuel storage areas. Ensure that live wires are clearly tagged. Have professional electricians tend to electrical problems. Become familiar with chemicals used in your work environment and know what first aid is necessary in the event of accidents. The first line of defense against burns is the strict observation of all safety regulations, the careful handling and transport of hazardous products, and the use of protective clothing and equipment. A heads-up awareness of potential problems and the ability to act quickly and responsibly will save lives.